Israel Adesanya.
28-0!
The McGregor announcing
About a guy who is
What's up the homies, Leighton here for UFC Gambling Addicts, back again for another UFC full card breakdown and predictions video. This one's going to be Rozenstruik taking on Gane, or Gane, whatever way you say it. As always, before we get into the breakdowns and the predictions, make sure you smash that like button, or you can go Derrick Lewis, ghost realm. If you want to do that, it's cold. It was a cold one. If you took Derrick Lewis, you loved it. You absolutely loved it. If you took Curtis Blaydes, man, it's hard not to be excited still, unless you bet on Curtis Blaydes, Either way, Derrick Lewis, just a cold guy, man. Loses rounds easily. He's never looking great in these fights, but boom, Shadow City. It hurts to see with the two follow-up punches, those two follow-ups. Oh man, nasty. I hope Curtis Blaydes is okay. You can't be too okay when that happens to you, but he's a good wrestler, man. He will be back. You just have to hold your hands up, man. Derrick Lewis sends people to the shadow realm. I did hit my double on the card, and I'm just going to roll that money over on this card with another double. Alright homies, let's get into breaking down and making predictions. First fight on this card, we've got Dustin Jacoby taking on Maxim Grishin. And we're going to start with Dustin. So Dustin comes into this matchup 1-0 inside the UFC. Primarily a kickboxer. A way better kicker than puncher. Blasted Justin Ledet with many low kicks in his debut. Maxim comes into this matchup 1 win, 1 loss inside the UFC. Manhandled in his UFC debut by Tybura, but then dropped down to his natural weight class of light heavyweight and completely dealt with Krylov. If Maxim implements takedowns into his game, I could see him doing well, but if Jacoby implements those nasty low kicks into his game for this fight, I could see him also doing well. It's a nice fight to start the card. I'm gonna side with the kickboxer. I think he's a much better kicker and he could score with that weapon. So I'm gonna take Jacoby via decision. My numbers, I'd put Jacoby around -160, Maxim +130. And the actual numbers, we've got Dustin coming in -180, Maxim +160. So the odds, they're in the ballpark. They do seem okay. If Maxim can use some fence pressure, take Dustin to the mat, that +160 is going to come all the way down. Jacoby, though, on the other hand, if he can keep it kickboxing and fire with those nasty low kicks, he's probably going to win this fight. I'm going to side with Jacoby. Probably not going to bet this one. Ronnie Lawrence taking on Vince Cachero. Guys, this one is a contender series matchup. It really is. I mean, this one can go either way. We're going to keep it nice and short. I think Ronnie Lawrence, this guy's early in his career. Only 7 pro fights to date. I think he could potentially take down Vince Cachero. Look to make it that type of battle. Maybe strike with Vince in the first round, but I think the main key to victory here for Ronnie, potentially look to wrestle. Vince Cachero, 0-1 inside the UFC, debuted against Jamal Emmers. His heart did show in that matchup. He kept walking forward, but hit with many, many big strikes by Jamal Emmers. Like I said, guys, this one is a contender series fight. Ronnie Lawrence probably should look to grapple, especially outside of round 1. Because if he doesn't, I do think Vince Cachero is probably going to take over with the striking. Really a 50-50 matchup in my opinion. I'm going to side with Ronnie Lawrence to maybe implement the wrestling that I'm anticipating. But I wouldn't be shocked, man. I really wouldn't. I'm going to take Ronnie via decision. And my numbers are going to be exactly the same, man. I'm going to put both of these guys -110. Ronnie Lawrence, -160. Vince Cachero plus 140. So the odds ain't that bad. You know, there's more money going on the Ronnie Lawrence line. I think there is some money coming in on Vince Cachero too. Let's see what Vince opened at. So Vince opened at plus 150 and he's now down to plus 130. Which kind of indicates, you know, this one, it really can go either way. For me personally, I wouldn't like to bet on this one. But if you have a confident read, be sure to drop it down. I am going to side with Ronnie Lawrence. No super confidence though, you know. Alonzo Menefield taking on William Knight. And we're going to start with Alonzo. So Alonzo comes into this matchup 2 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. Training out of Fortis MMA, primarily a power puncher. As we've seen so far in Alonzo's career, his gas tank isn't great, nowhere near great. Outside of round 1, he isn't as dangerous as he is. However, if we take a look at round 1, he is a pretty dangerous guy. The opponent, William Knight, comes into this matchup 1 win, 0 losses inside the UFC. Also a powerful puncher, just like Alonzo. He went 15 minutes in his debut with some striking and grappling. His cardio didn't look great, but it definitely held up over 15 minutes, more so than Alonzo's normally does. Both of these guys are super jacked. They pack a lot of punching power, so anyone can go down in round 1. But if this fight leaves round 1, I think William Knight is more than likely choosing to wrestle, choosing to bring Alonzo into a grueling cardio battle. If he does that, I could see him winning via decision, or even maybe stopping Alonzo Menefield on the mat. So my prediction is going to be William Knight. Super close fight though. I'd put William minus 130, Alonzo plus 100. The reason why I'm going to keep the odds so close, purely because both of these guys pack serious power and anyone can go down in round 1. Both of these guys minus 110. You know, that's spot on. It really is a difficult fight to predict in round 1. Outside of round 1, I would maybe give the advantage to William. But we do have to factor in that Alonzo, you know, training out of Fortis MMA is a really good camp. And they're only going to have this fighter getting better with his conditioning and his cardio. So yeah, really good matchup, man. I'm going to side with William Knight. Alexis Davis taking on Sabina Mazo. And we're going to start with Alexis. So Alexis comes into this matchup 6 wins, 5 losses inside the UFC. Alexis is primarily a jiu-jitsu player who hasn't exactly been able to use her jiu-jitsu too recently. She's been on a bit of a losing streak, coming towards the end of her career too. Now she does have the experience in this matchup in her favour, but unless she uses it to good effect with getting those takedowns, I'm not sure how much it's going to be a factor with the striking. Sabina Mazo comes into this matchup 3 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. Seems to be primarily a striker, although she has had success with her grappling against Shana Dobson and against Justine Kish. Her debut didn't go well because she got out-grappled herself, but since then, she's shown her ability inside the octagon. I'm not super confident in this pick. I'm going to take Sabina Mazo to be the better striker. But if Alexis Davis takes a look at what Marina Moroz did with her wrestling, she might be excited to get in there and attempt to wrestle herself, seeing as Marina is a boxer and not a wrestler, and Alexis is way more of a wrestler than a boxer. So it's difficult to be confident, but I am going to favour Sabina to use her striking. My numbers, Sabina minus 140, Alexis plus 110. And the actual numbers, Sabina Mazo minus 230, which is crazy, let's be honest. Alexis coming back plus 190. I am going to take Sabina, I am going to take her, but minus 230, man. It just implies that she's going to go in there and just bulldoze through Alexis Davis. And I'm not too sure that's going to happen. Yes, Alexis is coming towards the end of her career. She's not looking great, but she has got a path, and that's going to be the wrestling. So if she wrestles, I don't think she's going to be plus 200. Alexander Hernandez taking on Thiago Moises, and we're going to start with Alexander. So Alexander comes into this matchup 4 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a wrestler. However, Alex trains at Factory Muay Thai, so he is drilling a lot of Muay Thai striking, which was clear to see in his most recent performance. His striking did look improved. Despite Alex evolving with his striking, this guy, in my opinion, is still a wrestler. That's where he's best. Thiago Moises comes into this matchup 3 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a BJJ practitioner, extremely high level BJJ. Thiago, just like Alex, has been evolving with his striking. You only have to look at the Bobby Green fight to see Thiago's boxing. It's looking a bit better. I would say Bobby Green still outboxed him, but it was closer than I expected, which means Thiago has gotten better with his hands. For me, in this one, I'm going to side with Alex Hernandez to have the better striking. Both of these guys are primarily grapplers, so it's going to be kind of strange to see them kickbox. If it hits the mat, chances are Alex Hernandez is going to land on top because he is a better wrestler. But Thiago won't mind. You know, he's going to look to use his BJJ. It's a good matchup, man. We've got 2 good grapplers, most likely going to kickbox. And I do favour Alex Hernandez in that striking battle. So I'm going to take Alex Hernandez via decision. My numbers, I'd put Alex minus 150, Thiago plus 120. And we've got Alex Hernandez minus 180, minus 190, Thiago Moises plus 150, plus 160. Really good grapplers. Could Thiago Moises submit Alex Hernandez? I'm not going to say no. You know, he definitely could. His jiu-jitsu is good enough. Could Alex Hernandez outstrike Thiago Moises despite Hernandez being primarily a wrestler? I'm not going to say no. I think he probably could outstrike Thiago. Really, really good matchup. I'm going to side with Hernandez. Alex Caceres taking on Kevin Croom, and we're going to start with Caceres. So Alex Caceres comes into this fight with a crazy 50-50 record in the UFC. Alex is primarily an imitation of Bruce Lee. He's trying to utilize superhero-like movement, using flashy kicks. Although his boxing was pretty sharp against Chase Hooper, and his grappling was pretty sharp against Austin Springer too. Despite being such a hit or miss fighter, Alex Caceres has been pretty dominant in his last 2 fights. The opponent, Kevin Croom, comes into this fight 1-0 inside the UFC. His win did get overturned, but we're going to keep Kevin 1-0 because it was overturned for smoking weed. So yeah, Kevin stays 1-0 in my opinion. His debut, it was great. You know, this guy got in there, he went into full crazy mode and basically starched Roosevelt Roberts. I'm not sure that Caceres is going to be as stationary for Kevin to starch. I think Caceres is able to use his style of move and kick. If this fight does hit the mat, it could get pretty interesting because Kevin Croom loves to go to work on the mat. I'm going to side with the veteran, Alex Caceres. But man, I got a feeling this one, it's going to be back and forth, real entertainment. But I'll side with experience and that Bruce Lee type vibe. So I'll take Caceres via decision. Noticed I'm taking a lot of decisions on these fights. And, you know, the smaller octagon just doesn't promote that. But we'll see. I'm taking Caceres minus 170. Kevin plus 140. And we've got Caceres minus 200. Kevin Croom plus 170. Now, like I said, Caceres really is a hit or miss fighter, right? He gets in there, he has his style. It's an entertaining style, but it's hit or miss. Recently though, like I said, he's been quite dominant. So maybe minus 200 is fair in this matchup. But something's telling me, man. Something is telling me this one's going to be really fun. Kevin Croom, guy's crazy. He is a bit crazy, so watch out. Don't load up too much on Caceres. Alright, the homies, you know what time it is. If you waited to smoke with me, amen. If you've been smoking this whole time, double amen. And if you're not a smoker, but you still enjoy these smoke breaks, that's a triple amen, gang. Let's go. As you can see on the screen, this is the community poll for Gane and Rozenstruik. 60-40. You know, a lot of respect going on Rozenstruik. More respect going on Gane. If you want to have your say, click on the community tab, get your vote in. Now, guys, before we get into philosophy and motivation, just before we get into that, as always, hit the like button if you haven't. But before we get into philosophy, we spoke recently about, you know, the simulation theory. We spoke recently about that. I'm not going to get into it again, right? Listen, I get fascinated, man. I get fascinated by theories, all right? I'm not going to get into it again, but I am going to say this. On Saturday night, I feel like I experienced a simulation glitch. Take a look at this picture. Am I baked, or do you see it too? Do I look like Nasruddin Imavov? I mean, listen, if this is not a simulation glitch and I'm just too baked, okay. But do you, guys, come on, do you see this? You kind of see it too, yeah? A simulation glitch, alright? I'm not going to say any more. I thought that was funny, man. I was watching Nasruddin in the fight and coming out to the cage, and I was like, I kind of look like this guy. This guy kind of looks like me. And then I opened my phone and a few people are saying, yo, bro, you look like that guy. So yeah, man, I thought that was funny. Okay, so Instagram on screen. If you've got Insta, do the Insta. Right, philosophy, guys. Now, there was no homies that hit me with a smoke break topic. If you've got a smoke break topic, in the comments or direct message. This week, this is what I want to speak about. Focus on being the best version of yourself. Alright? Let me say that again to you. Focus on being the best version of yourself. Please try to do that. Actually, no. Don't try to do that. We ain't trying over here, yeah? We are waking up every day and we are doing, right? We are doing on this channel. We're not trying, we're doing. We are going to be the best version of ourselves every single day. When we're waking up in the morning, guys, straight away, today I'm grinding. Today I'm going to become a better version of myself. Alright, homies? Kings don't get tired of grinding, yeah? Kings love to grind. We love this. The best results require the best work, fellas. Remember that, yeah? To get the best results that you want in life, you must put in the best work to get that best result. As a king, we must focus on becoming the best version of ourselves every single day. How do you want your life to be? However you want it to be, it can be that way. You just got to say to yourself, okay, I got to do this so I can get to this. And then when I'm at that point, now I can do this. And then I'll get to that level, right? But you can't get to that level until you do a few things first. You feeling my vibe, fellas? The grind. It's the grind. You must be excited for it, man. If you ain't excited for it, you know, you're not gonna put in the best work. You're not gonna get the best results. It's like a video game. You know, I'm not going back to the simulation, but I'm using it as an example. Let's say I'm playing Crash Bandicoot, right? What if I miss a few boxes? Yeah, maybe I complete the level, but it wasn't as good as it could have been. The result I got wasn't the best result. So understand that best results require the best work. If you don't like the position you're in currently in life, you got to change it, man. To change it is to become a better version of yourself. A better version of yourself tomorrow. And so on and so on. I never said the journey is going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, but you have to be excited, man. You have to be excited to grind every day. Every day is a grind and you have to be excited to do it. The main message this week, fellas, focus on becoming the best version of yourself. Focus on becoming the greatest version of yourself. Alright, so amen to that. If we spread this energy to each other, it's like you're sharing XP, you know? You're sharing your experience points with another king. And that's an amen, alright? So amen, fellas. I hope that message hit some people. As always, you know, it's the smoke break. If it's not for you, it may be for someone else. So if there was anyone not feeling today, not feeling this week, if that message hit you, I'm glad. I hope you're smoking on the good. And if you're not a smoker, again, I hope you enjoyed the smoke break. Alright, let's get into the rest of these matchups. Angela Hill taking on Ashley Yoder, and we're going to start with Angie. So Angie comes into this matchup 7 wins, 9 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a Muay Thai striker. Angela has basically grown up in the UFC. Her record does suggest that she's pretty much bottom of the barrel type fighter. But I disagree with that. I think Angela Hill really has evolved into a pretty tough opponent for any fighter. Her wrestling has gotten much better. She's sitting down on her punches a little more. Output always been great. Angela Hill, despite being on a 2-fight losing streak, she is a problem. Ashley Yoder comes into this matchup 3 wins, 5 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a grappler. Ashley is always looking to take your back or transition into an armbar. Her boxing has never been an area that she's winning in a matchup. It's usually top control or back control. Now, this is a rematch. Angela Hill won the first fight. If Yoder is going to win this matchup, I think it's the takedowns. Because if this stays striking, I think we get the same story, maybe even more dominantly. And that's Angela Hill outstriking Yoder. So I'm going to side with Angela Hill via decision. I would put Angela Hill minus 250, Ashley Yoder plus 210. Maybe that's a little bit harsh on Yoder, but like I said, man, since their first fight, I feel like Angela Hill has really evolved where Yoder not so much. And we're getting Angela Hill at minus 300. So yeah, a lot of faith going into Angela Hill. Ashley Yoder, a big underdog again. Can she do it? I think she's probably going to have to grapple. Pedro Munoz taking on Jimmy Rivera. We're going to start with the Brazilian. So Pedro comes into this matchup 9 wins, 5 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a BJJ player. Super high level choke game. Pedro is a nasty kicker too. Loves to target you with the low kicks. He's coming off a loss to Frankie Edgar, where his boxing wasn't really up to scratch. It was a super close fight, where Pedro controlled the octagon, but didn't have enough to offer with his boxing, whereas Frankie mainly used his hands on the outside. Jimmy Rivera comes into this matchup 7 wins, 3 losses inside the UFC. A wrestler and boxer, Jimmy Rivera has always been a consistent fighter. One of the only fighters that was beating Peter Yan, but got dropped in both of those rounds he was winning. This fight is also a rematch. Rivera won the first fight, and I think he wins the rematch too. His punching power maybe being the difference in a good rematch. So I'll take Rivera via decision. Of course, we do have to mention that Pedro Munoz has evolved a lot since the first fight, but I'm not sure that his striking is going to be enough. I think he'd have to sub Rivera. I'd put Jimmy minus 150, Pedro plus 120. And the actual numbers, we've got Jimmy minus 150, Pedro plus 120. Yeah, that's perfect. Could go either way, it really could, but I think Jimmy Rivera, man, such a consistent performer. Really good wrestler, really good boxing. Pedro Munoz may be the better kicker, but all those kicks and octagon control against Frankie didn't really work because Frankie was the better boxer. So maybe Jimmy does the same thing. Moving into the next one, we've got Montana De La Rosa taking on Mayra Silva. And we're going to start with Montana. So Montana comes into this fight 4 wins, 2 losses inside the UFC. Primarily a wrestler. She's coming off a loss to Vivi Araujo, where she was basically dominated in the kickboxing. She's a big girl, you know. A big girl that's pretty good at taking you down and controlling you. The opponent, Mayra Silva, comes into this matchup 2 wins, 1 loss inside the UFC. A good striker and grappler. Mayra has way more heat in her punches than De La Rosa. Her low kicks are pretty powerful too. If this fight stays kickboxing, I'm sure we're all looking at Silva to win that type of fight. Silva does slow down as the fight goes on, so maybe De La Rosa can find success with her grappling the later this fight goes on. But for the first half, I do see Mayra basically tagging Rosa up with her boxing. So I'll take Mayra via decision. My odds would be Mayra minus 180, Rosa plus 150. And we've got Mayra minus 120, minus 130, De La Rosa plus 100, plus 110. So out of all of the odds on this card, this one is the biggest difference. I'm really overpricing Mayra by the looks of things, but I think this girl, man, she's got power. And if it stays upright, she could be a problem for Montana. But the flip side, of course, like I said, Montana is a big girl and she's pretty good at controlling the opponent. I'm not going to be gambling on this one. If you are, leave the comment below. Alright, co-main event homies, we've got Nikita Krylov taking on Magomed Ankalaev. And we're going to start with Nikita. So Nikita comes into this co-main event, 8 wins, 5 losses inside the UFC. Quite a sneaky good light heavyweight fighter. He was relentless with the takedowns against Johnny Walker. Went a hard 15 minutes against Glover. And in all honesty, I think Nikita won his first decision against Glover, despite the scorecards not saying that. Nikita has a lot of good experience in and outside of the UFC. Never underestimate this guy. The opponent, Magomed Ankalaev. Now this is a guy you shouldn't underestimate either. Magomed is 5-1 inside the UFC. His only loss coming in his UFC debut, where he completely dominated Paul Craig, who pulled off a Hail Mary triangle. Since that debut, Magomed has been nothing but super impressive. Super well-rounded as a fighter, with sharp technical striking and a good background in combat sambo. Maybe a future champion. I've got to side with the Russian. I think he is going to be more composed, more technical with his striking. It's not a downplay on Nikita, more of an upplay on the Russian. I have a lot of belief in this fighter, and I think he could potentially stop Nikita. So I'm going to take Magomed via TKO in round number 1. My numbers would be Magomed minus 220, Nikita plus 180. And the actual numbers, we've got Magomed minus 350, Nikita plus 280. So yeah, a lot of money on the Russian. It's hard to argue too, man, because this guy, despite the loss to Paul Craig, right, despite that loss, this guy has been only impressive. The way he put out Cutelaba, just on the back foot, real nasty. Nikita Krylov, man, He does have experience, but he's going to have to really pull something out the bag if he wants to get a win over Magomed. You know, Paul Craig, he found that out last 10 seconds, you know. You got to really pull something out the bag to beat this guy. Alright, main event, guys. We've got Rozenstruik taking on Gane. Before we get into breaking this one down, if you've enjoyed my breakdowns and predictions, if you are not a subscriber, please go ahead and do that. And as always, you know, smash that like button, Hamzat style, or Derek Lewis style, you know, like we said at the start of the breakdown. Alright, let's start with Rozenstruik. So Rozenstruik comes into this main event spot 5-1 inside the UFC. A Muay Thai striker, a pure Muay Thai striker with devastating punching power that seems to sleep any man. The only man to prove otherwise was Francis Ngannou. Despite Gane being a training partner of Francis, he isn't a Francis Ngannou, you know? Rozenstruik hasn't exactly showed any top level grappling, but that's because he's mainly putting guys out with that death touch. The opponent, Gane, comes into this fight 4-0 inside the UFC. Also primarily a Muay Thai striker, just like Rozenstruik. Gane has super good movement for a heavyweight, so light on his feet. It's hard not to notice that side of his game. Even in round 3 against Don'Tale Mayes, this guy is still bouncing on his feet. He isn't going out there and sleeping guys the way Rozenstruik is, but his kicking ability is proving to be pretty high level. He's also looking to exploit the opponent's ground game with his own grappling. This really is a great main event fight. Both of these guys are top Muay Thai strikers. Whoever wins this fight, I would love to see them go on to fight Tom Aspinall, because that'll be another really good Muay Thai striking battle, you know. If someone is going to go to sleep in this fight, it's probably going to be Gane. Rozenstruik has serious punching power. However, if someone is going to get submitted or even finished via ground and pound, it's probably Rozenstruik, seeing as Gane has been looking to take down his opponents. Either guy can win this fight, but I'm gonna side with Gane. I think his well-rounded game of Muay Thai and grappling, along with his movement, might be too much for Rozenstruik. Maybe even a finish on the mat. So I'm going to take Gane via submission in round number 3. And let's keep it real, yeah, guys. Either guy can win this one. We've just seen that with, you know, Derek Lewis. Rozenstruik has a death touch. He can sleep Gane. But Gane is going to have to look to use movement and find some takedowns. If he does, I think he can win. My numbers, I'd put Gane maybe minus 200, Rozenstruik plus 170. Now, if it's just kept Muay Thai striking, I wouldn't put Gane minus 200. If he goes for takedowns, yeah, I'm putting him minus 200. The actual numbers, we've got Gane minus 270, minus 250. Rozenstruik coming back over plus 200. Now, I said on the last main event, if you're taking Derek Lewis, you may as well take a KO prop. I'm kind of feeling the same vibes for Rozenstruik. Could he win a decision? Maybe, but if I'm picturing Rozenstruik winning this fight, it's the way he's won all of his fights, and that's stopping the opponent. Gane, on the other hand, I think he could submit Rozenstruik, maybe even find a finish on the mat, or even go 25. You know, I think Gane has more possibilities, and that's why I'm going to favour him. Alright, homies, as always, I've enjoyed breaking down these matchups. Leave your underdogs below, your parlays, all of that good stuff, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.